As we are approaching the second last session of the day with our speakers, Chidambaram and Chintan, speaking on agility with continuous testing using continuous integration. Let me take a moment to introduce our speakers, Chidambaram and Chintan. Chintan brings more than 13 years of profound experience in quality assurance with an insight into e-commerce and travel domains. With a passion to build an end-to-end quality engineering, he developed his skills in functional automation, performance, SEO, security, and accessibility testing along with DevOps tool stack. He has been associated with AlphaTech, Jackson, Isobar, Odysseus prior to Dentsu. Apart from his professional role, he likes to learn, share, and contribute to implement compliance best practices in the organization. Let's move to Chidambaram, who would be co-speaking with Chintan. Chintan has around 10 years of experience in IT industry and 4 years into automation. He has been extensively involved into development of automation framework. He has been an instrumental in developing automation capability in his organization as well. His interest lies into continuous testing and integration and delivery. Prior to Dentsu, he was working with HCL. CI and CT has been a hot topic for quite some time now. Let us understand how agility can be imbibed in CT using CI. Over to you, Chintan and Chidambaram. Thank you.
Thank you, Jyoti, for the nice introduction. So we'll share our screen. So probably Chidambaram will share the screen and we'll proceed. All right, so it's a great honor for us to be a part of this virtual event and to present across the audience. We have wonderful audience. We're still seeing a huge number of participation. So let's talk about the agility with continuous testing using CI. And during this session, we are going to talk about the so the current challenge is whatever we have identified, the CI introduction, the different three phases, the CI in general, and the tech stack that can be used. And we'll also spend some time to answer your queries. So let's begin with the current challenges. You can raise your hands quickly and take it down, just not to confuse Jyoti if you agree with my points. So the first thing which we identified was that we have, let's say in e-commerce domain, we have to perform various testing. That starts with the functional and non-functional. And in non-functional, we have various types of testing to be done, which is security, performance, accessibility, SEO, and things around that. So we have various dependencies on each and every department or skilled person. And that is kind of creating a gap between the communication. So if someone is done with testing, the other which has to start gets delayed a bit because of the communication doesn't happen. The second thing is the manual execution. As we know that there are a lot of tools. People do use tools to get the issues out of the application under test, and it is repetitive in nature if we have to use it, throughout our deliverables. So it brings to us to the third point, which is time consuming. You would agree that most of the times is spent on using the tool and waiting for it to come back to us with the report. And that's where our most of the time gets spent to get to the result. And then our real work starts. The next thing is the timeline constraints. We as a QA, it is very painful for us that we have to do a lot of work towards the end of the sprint, and we are very busy during the release cycle. So we know how critical it is for us to meet all the quality checkpoints and deliver the product with right quality. And the last thing, what we noticed is that with regards to the non-functional testing in particular, We used to check it at the end of the regression phase or during the E2E phase. And at that time, when we catch any issues around non-functional testing, we have to start all over, including identifying the impacts and undergoing again security if the issues around that and things like that. So it was getting feedback at the later stage that could have been prevented. So to see of how we can address those challenges with the help of CI, I'll let Chidambaram talk about it further. So over to you, Chid. You're on mute.
Sorry, guys. So I think I'm audible, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Chintan. So yes, so as Chintan was setting up the context perfectly, so I'll just quickly take you through just a couple of slides, and I'll explain you the whole part, what we exactly do on this. Just a quick introduction of CI/CD. Every one of you know what exactly the CI/CD does. So we used to build a pipeline job, build our code, run the test, and safely deploy the application. So that's the predominant thing that the CI/CD does. The major benefits what we have is like it removes the manual errors, it provides this feedback loop to the team, and it gets you the faster iteration to the release cycle. So these are some of the common things that we come across, and that's been leading stream of late. So the challenge and idea that we got this out of the CI/CD is something that has been quite fascinating, because when I started to work here, right, so I always fascinated towards automation. So that's where I had a challenge, like whenever a developer pushes a code, right, and in particular with SFTC, whenever a developer pushes code, the next step what he has to do is like he has to go do a lot of configuration for the Salesforce Commerce Cloud in the Business Manager, and then the code will be tested across the different verification points like DevOps, front end, back end, and finally the TA. So this DevOps verification part is the most tedious one when you take across, because the operation teams in particular does all this configurations of data. I'll explain you what all these things. And once this configuration,
Chidambaram, your voice is a bit low. Can you speak a bit louder, or maybe you can bring the mic closer?
give me a second. Is it fine now?
Better.
Yeah, is it fine?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Is my audible? Am I audible?
Yes, much better. Yes, much better.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, so especially with Salesforce Commerce Cloud, right, we always have this the pain of doing this configuring the test data, because it takes a lot of time, and whenever a developer makes any new change or any functionality is going to get hit or it's get affected, we have to start from the scratch. So that's where it all started. So what we do is like we have this three phases. That's most important part. Like we do, one is the code development. So once the code is done by the developers, he pushes the code to the GitHub, and we do have the static code analyzer. We test all the static code analysis, and then this Git repository performs this build a trigger. So once the job is getting triggered, it goes to the Jenkins, and it performs all the test and stores the build, where you can manually take a build and you can perform any operation without deployment, or if you still want to go for deployment, yes, you can go ahead. So this is the phase we wanted to talk about mostly, because we are not mainly focusing on deployment, because the deployment is another aspect we are already been doing, but we wanted to have it on the continuous integration part. So the continuous deployment, where we'll be publishing the build, deploying the testing, and the continuous deployment. So this is the three phases which we have separated. Now I'm going to focus more on this code development and the code integration part. So let me give you a quick introduction. I mean, with the continuous integration. So we basically work on an e-commerce platform integrated with Salesforce Commerce Cloud. So the major challenge what we used to happen is like whenever a developer commits a code, right, there is a couple of instances where we need to create, update, or integrate the configuration data in the business manager for the Salesforce Commerce Cloud. This part of operation is being carried out separately with the operations team. So what we thought is like, why can't we automate this complete process rather than sending it to the operations team for every single time? So what we did is like, as soon as my developer commits a code using webhook, right, we create a new build version is getting created. For example, if my build version is 3.0 for us saying, and as soon as I make a commit, right, we get a build like say build 3.1. and this comes into my CA integration part. That is my job is getting triggered. Once it comes inside my job, right, the first point of verification would be my DevOps verification. So what I do basically here, so what we do is like the product catalog import, cartridge import, all the configurations that needs to be checked, payments related settings, anything that is related to your configuration data, we just have it in a plugin, and these plugins will be integrated to my Jenkins jobs. So this would be my first verification. And second is once all this verification is getting passed, right, it moves on to my next phase. That is my code quality checks. Either I can call it as code quality check, or I can call it as a front end verification and as well as a back end verification, because we are doing both the part here. So if in case what happens if my DevOps verification pointer is getting failed, for example, I have imported a cartridge, but that cartridge product went out of stock or something happened, like if a high pay is not enabled, or if the product went out of stock, or if it is any operation mode is getting failed, right, immediately it fails the job, it rolls back to the previous phase, and a quick notification will be sent to the developers stating the error. So again, it makes it very faster to the developer saying like we have an error in this phase itself. So immediately works on the change, or immediately works on the business manager to change the modification. Coming to the second step, that is my code quality step. So what we do here is like first we'll be verifying this code syntax using this ESLint. So you all know about this ESLint, right? It's again an NPM. So we have configured this inside our plugin. So it goes inside that, checks my code quality. And second is my Sonar integration. So we are using Sonar Cube. So we will be verifying all the code quality standards and the optimizations. And third is I'll be going and checking the standard CSS syntax and my code quality. Here again, we are using a couple of plugins that we predominantly use. One is the CSS Hero or the code snippet. So these plugins have been taken specially from the developers, and they just given the suggestions, and we'll be integrating with that. And next is we'll be checking on the HTML W3 compliance. Again, we have used this compliance checker that we use a unicorn validation plugin. So that plugin will help us to check this HTML W3 compliance, and then we'll be going for the accessibility code compliance. And then we go for the security code with quality checks. Here we have following two processes. One is we have a manual checklist that we already incorporate when we do a manual testing. Apart from that, we also have a static application security test plugin, and this plugin will ensure it checks all the security measures that needs to be followed. So we are following front end with ESSLint and front end ESSLint verification, back end ESSLint verification, Sonar integration, CSS syntax quality check, HTML W3C, and security. So after crossing all these 7 security code checks, right, the job is getting passed to the next verification pointer. That is my QA verification point. If in case if there is any failure of if there is any check that is getting failed, right, immediately it rolls back to the previous version, and then it stops the build and sends notification to the developer. Again, developer has to make the change. So by this way, we ensure that we are very faster to the developers stating the issues. Actually, this is the first part where we are very much focused on the developer side. Then coming to the QA part. When you come to QA part, right, the most important aspect what we think is like everybody functional test automation. So that is the one aspect people always rely on that. But here we went a step ahead and we started implementing a couple of few other functionalities like front-end performance testing, back-end performance testing, SEO testing, security testing with couple of checklists, and then accessibility testing, because these are the 5 aspects we do in our organization very frequently. So we don't want to have this all the things in one single part. So we wanted to separate it in 2 entities. So that's the reason why we have functional verification part and non-functional verification part. So functional verification part is something that we do it normally. There is the automation. Once my build is stable, I'll do a set of automation testing. Either we can call it a smoke, sanity, or regression, whatever you want. You can do a testing, and I also have the privilege to do the visual automation test using apply tools. So you can configure anything of your choice. You can configure a smoke job, sanity job, or a regression job in the SQL verification part. When it comes to non-functional part testing part, right, I'll be doing my accessibility testing, front-end performance testing, back-end performance testing, and my SEO along with security checklist. So once all these phases are getting passed, right, if in case, again, I used to say, if there is any failure, it stops, halts the build, proceeds back to the previous version, and it is notified to developers. If in case if there is any failure in the QA verification part, it just notifies back to the corresponding stakeholders. You can have a performance test engineer, or you can send it back to QA. So this is how we kept the stage. And once all these stages are getting passed, right, it sends a notification stating that the stage has been passed, and the PR will be merged to the master, and you'll have a new stable version, and that version you can take it and you can deploy it. So that is a separate part we talking about the deployment. But in the stage, we concentrate on all these 4 verification pointers, and this build, deployment, and verification being successfully implemented in our project. So just to show you, so this is the Jenkins CI/CD pipeline that we have integrated. I'll show you on the real time how we works. So we have all the jobs, like for the front end verification, ESLint, LSLint for the backend verification. Once it is done, we have the setup part where we'll be setting up all the things that we wanted to do, and we do a code quality check that is getting passed. Then we will go for a stage QA. So here, as a part of a QA testing, right, we are more inclined towards QA because we don't want to take up that DevOps and front end. So here we set up a separate stage view pipeline job for this QA. So we have this setup regression. On the NFT, we have the backend performance, front end performance, security, XCO, and accessibility. So far we have integrated all the jobs except security, because security is a separate entity. So what we did is, like, we had a couple of manual checklists and we have integrated that. And so when this job is getting completed, right, I can ensure my QA part is completed and the build is very stable. So this is how we have implemented in our organization with the projects, and trust me, it just really pays us very good results, because it is quite faster, and as soon as when developer makes any change, we are very good with things. Even if a small failure, it just notifies back to the developers or the QA or the performance test engineers. And just before I get to the real-time application, I'll just talk about a quick rush up on the tech stack. So front end, we use the web page test, or else we can go for Lighthouse. For backend, we use Apache JMeter, and for accessibility, we are using Web Accessibility Evaluation Tool. Again, as you know, for test automation, you're using Selenium Cucumber with Java. If it's up on the visual integration side, we'll be using Applitools. And for continuous integration, I'm using Jenkins. We will also have an TeamCity as an option. And for ACM, yes, you know, you might go for Git or GitHub. And for security, we are using Burpsuite Professional. We have it, and for OASP is something that you can still use for other stuff. So Chintan, I'll go ahead with the connecting the Jenkins job. So if you guys have any questions, please just shoot us.
We might take questions at the end. Maybe we can complete with the demo part first, and then we can get the questions.
I hope I'm audible, right? And you can able to view my screen.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, you're audible, and we're able to see your screen.
Yeah, so I just started with the VPN. So how? Yes. So these are the different jobs which I was been talking about. So this ESLint test and backend front end is all these for the verification of the code quality check. Then we have this QA accessibility testing. We have this QA automation. This is the main job which runs the regression smoke or sanity suit. And these are the other projects. I mean, these are project related jobs that needs to be done before the QA automation. So, so these are the other jobs. So this is the backend performance test, and we have a couple of issues in the front end performance test. That's why we have this job getting paid. And also we have an additional job for regression suit. If in case if I want to shuffle back between my smoke or regression, I'll run this job. And this is the pipeline job which I was talking about. So if you wanted, we will be building this job. Yes. So this job completes. So we ensure that whatever the stages we have, everything will be committed actually. Yes, good to take questions.
Okay, so we have one question. How are you checking on performance monitors? Is it part of this pipeline?
Yes, we have this. I'm audible.
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah, I'm getting echo actually. We have integrated this GME performance job, and that job will be taking care of this performance benchmark. And also we have a couple of plugins that sets a benchmark. And if in case if there is any inconsistency with the failure of the benchmark, it reports us actually.
Okay. There's one more question, which is again related to performance only. Is
Yeah.
backend performance involves checking database performance? If yes, which performance tool is used?
Chintan.
Yep. So basically, in our example today, we talked about the Salesforce Commerce Cloud. So basically, we are using platform as a service to build an application. So we normally don't deal with the database in particular directly. So it is just a performance from the front end side and the back end side. So when I say back end, it is mainly the application performance. And if it doesn't break, it's good with certain benchmark users, but not in particular database.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Again, how much time your pipeline takes and does it run on each commit from developer?
Okay, so this the one which I'm showing you, right? This one is we have just tweaked for for this presentation purpose. For example, if I wanted to run for a project purpose, right? My job, if I run a regression suite having 200 test case, that takes 3 hours, and then for NFT, SEO, and accessibility, it will take another 4 hours. So it will take at least 5 to 6 hours max, and it might go till 7 hours because we do everything as a part of the testing. The project which you are working is quite big one actually, with almost 8 locations.
Okay. Okay. But again, this is my question. How would you handle scalability? Let us say your suite is having how many test cases right now?
My project has almost close to 200 plus test case in regression suite.
Okay. Along with the entire what you say the QC part and with the security checks, accessibility checks, and everything. Okay, let us say we have just 200 test cases. In case if this suite increases to more than 1,000 test cases, how are you going to handle scalability, or what would be your approach for scalability?
Yeah. So actually, what we are trying to do here is like, so this is the one question that always comes to us. So what we have already achieved is, right, we already integrated this automation testing in JAS environment actually. So Jenkins as a service. So where we just picks up the jobs from that as a thread count and will be displaying, and the jobs are already running in JAS. Just to just have to have a complete setup, we just started with this. But in future, if you wanted to have a scalability purpose, right, we'll be moving this to Docker containers or with a JAS based on the requirement actually. At least we have 2 projects running on this.
Okay. Any what you can say idea about taking this entire thing on cloud applications or something?
Yes, actually, it's a good question. So far, this particular initiative, that what we thought as we started all like a roadmap of 2021, and we successfully managed to complete it. Yes, it's a good question. We thought of integrating to a Google Cloud platform to do that, but still it's on notes actually. We wanted to integrate this actually because this is something that we have done from our project and we are bringing to the wider audience. But yes, we'll be doing it eventually.
Okay, that's nice. We have a few more questions here. Any reports that can be shown? Like after
When
execution of pipeline, what kind of reports which you report to, or do you display report directly in the Jenkins interface? How do you
yes, we
handle
do have.
this one?
Yes, I do have a report, but I can get this the person who has this question that I can get him personally because we have some project deliverables running inside that. So I may not able to show it up here, but I can get you how the results are coming. As you know, for regression we have a Cucumber report that's coming up separately, and for performance we have separate reports coming up, and for consolidated we have an HTML report actually that has everything: automation,
Okay.
NFT, E1 accessibility.
Okay, sure. Another question is Okay, let me correct. Are all 200 test cases running in parallel?
No, actually, we have the one which I'm showing you, right? We have this smoke test running that is almost 20 test cases running. But for to answer to that question, no, we have 30 test cases that is running actually.
Okay.
Not all 200.
Okay. Any more questions? I guess this is a very interesting topic, and every QA professional should be interested into this pipelines because it is something which always keeps us nagging. Like management is always running behind us to have this capability integrated.
Jyoti, the reports was my question. So if not for showing a report, can you please share what parameters are you considering into the reports and how value adding is it?
Parameter sense in the report you wanted to specifically?
Yeah, no, what is the, I mean, on the basis of pass and failure, what is being considered by the management when they see
Okay.
the report? What is the deciding factor for them?
Good. So for example, if you talk about the functional test automation, right? The pass percentage, what the particular project wants is like for smoke, they have wanted the pass percentage about 95 and for regression 90 plus. So that's the parameters that we have. And for performance testing for front end, the page load time for all the pages should be less than 5 seconds. And for home page, it should be less than 3 seconds. So that's the benchmark we have. So if anything that crosses above, we consider as failure and we'll start working on that. And for security, code check will be ensuring that it follows the OS top 10 standards, and that's being completely followed on that developer part. And for accessibility, we follow this AAA compliance. If there is any issue on that, then probably it reports back saying that we have an issue actually. So these are the basic standards we follow.
So added for everything, or it's a combined report?
Every single entity sends me a separate report, and the consolidated one has a consolidated report and HTML report that will be sent to the stakeholders actually.
Okay, so basically the final report is a customized report, right?
Exactly. Yes, HTML report. We wanted to have that report in a bit fancier way, but just to start up, we just landed up in having it in a HTML report only. So this was just a roadmap what we did for this 2021.
That's nice. I have one more question. So this is related to the security aspect. How did you integrate the OWASP or the burp suite into your pipeline?
Good question. So just I started with that, right? So OWASP and security is just going to be a vast topic, right? So what we did is like we initially had a couple of manual checklist pointers that we used to follow, and then one OWASP thing which we have picked actually, and we have integrated that with the plugin. Not all 10, just to answer. So we are slowly integrating one by one with that plugin.
Like, can you share some more information over this part? Because I'm personally interested into it, and I would like to integrate some of the security features even in my project in future.
Okay, so may I go ahead, Chit? So,
Yes, Chintan, go ahead.
okay, so Jyoti, to answer your question, there are two ways you can ensure the security compliance is met. First is with the help of whatever automation we have in place. So there are manual checklists that we normally derive based on our experience for the application we use. And second is with the application, I mean, with the help of tool. So there is a tool again from OWASP, which is called as Z Attack Proxy, ZAP. It is compatible with the automation integration. They have API, and you can leverage this to perform the passive testing. So that runs along with your test when you run. So basically, if I give an example of an e-commerce user journeys, if you go ahead and do a checkout, it will in the backend start collecting the URLs and we'll also do the passive testing. And that way, by the end of your execution, you will have a report from the tool itself. And along with that, if you have the automated script which checks on the security aspect, let's say to validate the logs, whether the security, I mean, the sensitive data is not getting printed into it or things like that, whatever you have as a requirement for yourself, those can be covered there.
So will it be covered into the test suite of security, or how are you going to provide the coverage? So
Uh,
sorry, I guess I may sound a bit confusing, but again, I need to understand
yeah,
it.
yeah. Yeah, so basically, your Selenium test will have basic checks. When we say manual checks, those are automated, will be kept in your automated suite, and that will run along with your pipeline. And second stage you can say, or second job you can build is to perform this security scan with this that attack proxy. So these are two different jobs you can have for yourself. The one with Selenium will be the customized one for your organization, and second one is from WASP top 10 guidelines. Basically, ZAP checks from these top 10 guidelines and the security aspect, and that you will get a report with integration. So these are two different jobs.
Okay, basically two different jobs are providing the entire coverage. Again,
Yes.
I also have heard about integration of Selenium with this ZAP tool. So have you integrated same within your test suite as well?
No, not really right now. We know we are right now working in on that area, and that's the reason precisely Chidambaram talked about. We are right now focusing on the manual aspect with Selenium, but we know that it is possible.
Okay, okay, great. Any other questions we have for
One
Chintan
maybe
and
maybe last question.
yes,
Was there any challenges that you faced when you were trying to integrate with pipeline, or is there any disadvantages that you guys are facing with this particular thing?
If we talk about challenges, right? The first challenge what we started facing is like that every developer has, they have their own set of checks that they will do for the code verification as well as the syntax. So trying to integrate the different plugins for this code syntax, HTML, W3TC, ESLint, ISLint were really challenging at times actually, because when we started this, integrating this ESLint NPM was quite challenging. But then once we started integrating it right by trial and error method, we ensured that all the code standard checks were being followed. Now again, and just to reiterate, this complete job we can split into two. One is for developer end, where you can check all the code related standards integration works for developers, and one for separate entity as QA. Even in QA, you can have both functional and non-functional. And apart from challenges, the one thing which the problem is like this job is quite time consuming, because if you wanted to run from end to end, right, it's going to be a really consuming one. And the other aspect is, if it's going to be a big one, a big scale project, and scalability is something that we need to address, because I need to ensure that my job runs on gas or something of that sort. So scalability is something that we have to work, and also on the running purpose, I need to make it a bit faster. So that's how the two disadvantages that we are currently facing.
Yeah, and the last one from my end, and it is very important as we talked about Selenium very heavily. It is again it possesses risk if you change anything. If your core basic scenarios are getting affected due to some changes, you will be in a deadlock situation where a lot of your test cases are relying on the critical usabilities. So it is again a risk for this implementation.
Great.
okay.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you.
tirelessly answering the questions. Yes, Jyoti.
Yeah, thank you.
You
This
can
is
reach
this
us
is like,
anytime. We'll be happy to express.
yeah. I guess we had taken a highest number of question in the entire day in your session. Maybe because of the curiosity, or the what you can say. This topic is immensely popular among the guys. So thank you, Chintan and Chidambaram, for answering this perfectly. Though we still have many questions, I would personally thank you that you came up with this topic. You showed us, uh, you walked us through the challenges, you walked us through the pipeline. It is really nice to see that you are covering the entire aspect for the entire pipeline, like the security aspect is covered, performance aspect is covered. This is really nice. Like, I had been working on pipelines for a couple of years, but again, this is one of the most comprehensive pipeline which you have presented. So thank you. I would like to be in touch with both of you, maybe we can exchange some more minutes so that I can assimilate more on creating pipelines, like at least the security and the performance aspect of it. Thank you very much for this wonderful session.